Hey everyone, welcome back! The build today is only possible due to some cool people from our community. Thanks to Thorian Kel and Wisdom of the Woods for fine-tuning and testing this Oberon setup. Yes, it's another Oberon build. This build is rated for base steel path and not endurance. It is an odd one. I guess you could call it another Inaros, but with abilities. But it's interesting enough, I thought it was worth showing. Oberon has always been known as the jack of all trades. His main issue was never being good enough at any of them to really stand out. There are other jack of all trade frames such as Neja, Wisp, and more recently Citrine. All of them have more defined identities and stronger overall capabilities than Oberon, especially with the helmet system. But there are actual Oberon builds, such as the one-shot smite setups for demless killing. Today's build is an unusual tanking setup with extra utility. Instead of tanking with raw HP or shield gating, we are tanking with regen. There are not as many ways to regen HP constantly in this game. Wisp is another example, but due to her built-in rolling guard on her too, this is quite irrelevant on her. This build also uses Hallowed Reckoning, and now is a good moment to point out that this augment is bugged. Ever since 2022 September, this augment was buffed with more damage and to scale by range. In December, it was bugged for clients to not scale by range. January fixed this, but it also resulted in host now arbitrarily not having the mod scale by range. Please fix this. It screws over a lot of builds, whether defensive or offensive. So regen tanking. The main crux of this setup is stacking as much damage reduction as possible. We ignore building extra health and energy max because if damage exceeds our regen, we would die regardless after 2 or 3 seconds. Single hits that exceed our total EHP pool will also one-shot us, but those are very rare in base steel path. We use quick thinking because it doubles as both a larger health bar, but also because we're using a hunter adrenaline setup today. Tanking health regens energy, but because we constantly regen health from Renewal, we keep regenning energy. This is the entire ideology on why we are able to face tank steel path without modding more health or energy. For an enemy to kill us, they have to deplete all our health, which regenerates all our energy, and then also deplete our energy as health, all the while we keep regenerating health. How much HP does this build have? 22,170. Not as much as you think, but what really matters is the EHP regen per second. This build regens 24,825.26 EHP per second. Basically more than your entire bankable EHP. So unless enemies do enough damage to kill your entire original EHP in 1 second, they cannot kill you. 90% of the EHP exists as your energy bar. How? Let's look at the build. This Oberon has armor, boatloads of it. It also has raw damage reduction in the form of adaptation. Then we also have quick thinking to use our energy bar as health, which takes armor and damage reduction scaling and adds a 240% efficiency value on top of it. And then today's helmet is Nourish. This makes Hunter Adrenaline regenerate 3.79 times more energy than normal, effectively increasing the energy as EHP regen by 3.79 times. And on top of all of this, casting any ability activates Molt Reconstruct. It grants 6 health per energy spent at 100 efficiency. Reckoning will refill our entire bar and Nourish refills 300 since we didn't mod any health increases on. This health will funnel back into Hunter Adrenaline for even more energy and EHP at 3.79 times scaling, and proccing Quick Thinking's 240% conversion efficiency. Arcane Guardian makes up over half the armor we get, and this is extremely easy to activate with our tanking setup. The Exilus I would recommend prime sure-footed so you don't have to always be on your carpet. This is because Oberon's 2 procs radiation on enemies and reduces their likelihood of shooting you, meaning less energy to funnel into your abilities. Cast your 2 as needed, and because it is required for your 3 to give armor, but don't spam it. Nourish also grants us 209% viral damage, which is perfect for Oberon, since he has access to 100% AoE armor strip from Reckoning so long as enemies are on carpet. Viral has bonus damage against flesh, independent of its status proc, letting you easily shred enemies. It even works on acolytes. I modded Prime Continuity so that Nourish lasts at least 30 seconds to not be annoying to recast. Hallowed Reckoning grants us plus 40% range, so it hits 30 meters radius out, while also inflicting lasting dot zones to damage armor-stripped enemies. Extra armor when standing in the zones, which are larger than visual, as the visual and damage zones are bugged, but the armor buff radius isn't. Reckoning also has a 50% chance to drop health orbs on enemies it kills, which is where the augment's dot zones can come in handy after full strip. Renewal grants us 111.6 HP per second regen today, and if cast while on carpet, 758 armor that persists forever even after we step off, so long as Renewal remains active. It also works on teammates and persists even if they leave your buff radius afterwards, as well extending everyone's bleed out timer. For today's focus school, I strongly recommend Madurai for the plus 50% casting speed and plus 40% strength buff. If you don't use this, then you will absolutely want 2 casting speed Archon shards to make Reckoning less annoying to cast. Your EHP tanking goes downhill somewhat, but it will still be high, and also fixable with strength Archon shards if you so choose. Because Renewal Snapshot Strength, you only need Madurai Double Void Sling for it once at the start of the mission, unless you deactivate it later on. Nourish is not as important to have Madurai active for since it doesn't directly affect your regen and only affects energy economy. Regen has non-linear EHP scaling for duration of survivability due to enemies needing to deplete both your HP and energy, but you're constantly regenerating HP that also converts into energy the entire time. Otherwise, power transfer is only there for your Reckoning casts, and also has a 20 seconds duration before refresh. How to use? Madurai Void Sling, cast Carpet, cast Renewal, cast Nourish. Congratulations, now you go around shooting stuff up. If they're too tanky, cast Reckoning to strip their armor off. Cast Nourish every 30 seconds when it expires, otherwise enjoy infinite face tanking on base steel path with a kit that actually does something. I guess this is a completely different take from the Hero build I posted a little over a week ago, but once again is an Inaros with abilities. Because the Oberon build does not rely on any weapon synergy whatsoever, you can bring whatever you want. This means your KPM is also entirely reliant on your weapons, which is why I didn't list it at the start. Bring your Brahma if you want, or you can bring melee. Do whatever is to your heart's content. I brought a Tenet Arca Plasmor, since I haven't used it in a while, because Nourish grants me raw viral damage. I didn't mod any elementals today, and slot primed tactical pump to cut reload down to just 1.3 seconds. The most annoying part Plasmor has is the reload after all, so this makes it much more comfortable to use. The Toxin Progenitor lets us bypass Corpus shields if that's what you face, but make sure to change the Bane. Tenet Arca Plasmor has Multiplicative gun seal, so make sure you bring it as well. Carpet always inflicts rad proc, so that's a literal free 80% final damage multiplier at minimum already. Galvanized Acceleration lets you snipe enemies literally across the tile, and Modus setup should naturally activate based on your parkour and steel path content. This brings us to 88% crit chance and 95.2% status. If you don't want to run Modus setup, you can bring Shotgun Barrage. Yes, they renamed Shotgun Spaz. Merciless since kills should be relatively easy, but we also have Hunter munitions to kill tankier units through armor, which cannot activate Deadhead. If you Reckoning cast an Acolyte, this thing 3 taps them. Yes, 3 shots. Or you could bring a Glaive Prime to dumpster Acolytes as well with this generic build. The Smite doesn't do anything to Acolytes, but I guess if there's a problematic Xmas, it works. It double dips for 2.4 times more damage on your bleed procs. Power Throw can replace the Prime Fury slot if you chain multiple throws. Amalgam Organ Shatter and Killing Blow are extremely important to cut the wind-up time down to just 0.5 seconds. Volatile Quick Return is also handy to increase Glaive's AoE to 7.8 meter radius, since they have 0 falloff. Alternatively, if you cast Reckoning, your Plasmor will one-shot them regardless. Seriously, 500k damage baseline and 1 million plus easily, almost another 500k per status effect present. Bring a random pistol with Augur mods. You don't need a Decay Dragon key. Its purpose is to grant you partial shield gate 0.33 seconds. This is enough to stop you from dying in bad situations of burst damage outside of one-shots, but it still provides enough of a window so that enemies can start shooting you again to regain energy quickly. The full 1.3 seconds shield gate reset can prove troublesome when energy is low post-cast, which can deactivate Renewal. Panzer is the same as always, viral quill spreads for pet assist and proctor synset. Free health orbs everywhere for better tanking regen, martyr to keep you alive from the rare one-shots. Basically, don't stand in front of a melee acolyte as they can one-shot you, and don't stand still if melee units come to swarm you. Shoot them, kill them, jump away, it's pretty obvious. Devolution to keep your Panzer around, radar, and a vacuum. Cheers! If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get new information out always as soon as possible. Like I've done with Citrine's Last Wish. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis, as well as the earliest Duviri content. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.